Welcome back to Let's Hustle Homes with Hazel. I'm your host, Hazel Shakur. Together, we are going to learn, execute, thrive, and succeed. One client, one home, one dream at a time. Today, we have a special treat. There are nitty-gritty things that you need to do in real estate. Follow-up is one of them. Having hard conversation is another. And being real with your clients so that they learn to trust you. There is someone that I've learned all of the above from, who's been in my world for almost 10 years. I met him when I first started at Redfin. And in fact, whatever he did or told me to do, I did. And my goal was to be just like Russell Chandler. And then when I, in the way that I do, decided to just fly and just kind of, basically be the road runner in real estate, he has been my biggest cheerleader. He has been the guy that always I go to when something's troubling me about our industry or about a client. In fact, when you need someone to talk to get you pepped up and pumped up to have a hard conversation, that guy for me is Russell, because he will tell me what to say. I will go say it, and usually it ends well, or at least get through it, because he knows how to have these hard conversations, because he's a very genuine, real person that people instantly trust when they meet him, because he immediately puts you at ease, and you can tell right away that he's looking out for your best interest. So without further ado, because I need you to learn from him as soon as possible, I'm going to introduce you to Russell Chandler, who's also a coworker at Redfin. I want to start, Russell, by asking you how you got into real estate.
Well, it's a really good question. I'll tell you a story. I grew up in a city called Columbia, Maryland. And Columbia was being developed when I grew up. I grew up there. So a young lady that I was dating at the time when I was in high school, our dates would be going out to these large homes that are being built out in Glen Elg, and we would sit and have lunch or have dinner and take a look at these properties. I did not know I was going to be a real estate agent.
You just like...
When I look back at that, I was just thinking about that a couple of years ago. It was my path. So watching Columbia be developed, being a student of Rouse, who developed Columbia, Ryland Homes, I went to high school with those families. So I guess that's kind of why I'm in real estate, just watching Columbia be developed.
Isn't that an interesting path?
I don't think I've ever told you
that. And I've never asked you, actually, and I had no idea. I knew you grew up in Columbia. We have mutual friends because we grew up kind of lived our adult lives in the DMV. So thank you for that, Russell. That's very interesting. Sometimes there's a passion that's kindled, or that comes from something that you just enjoy. I am a naturally nosy person, and I like to see how other people decorate, which is how I kind of landed in real estate. And then I think one of the things that we both share in common is we love to help people.
And that's a big component. You have to love helping people solve problems to be in this business and to be successful in this business, and for people to trust you. That trust has to be conveyed to a customer and or a client, or even an agent that's on the other side. That trust has to be conveyed in the first 60 seconds that you meet them.
Well, you told a story. Unfortunately, the camera was not rolling at that point, so I'm going to make you repeat it, because I was riveted, because I thought, oh my goodness, what an interesting turn of events after you did something that a lot of agents who are just in it for the money and closing deals, you were asked to do one thing, but you figured out what she really needed, and you suggested something else, and all of a sudden an opportunity opened up. Tell us about that.
Yeah, trying a true purpose. So I had a virtual meeting with a client or customer yesterday, and it was a young lady, single mother, a nurse. She's looking to start a business, and she has an investment property. She was thinking about selling said property. She's like, I want to do a 1031 exchange. I was like, okay, let's do a 1031 exchange. I was like, well, tell me what you're trying to do. Why do you want to sell this property? She said, well, I don't want to pay taxes. So then I figured out how long it was her owner-occupied property. I said, you don't really need to pay taxes on it. Why do you want to sell this house? I said, well, how much is it worth? And she told me how much it was worth. And I said, what's the interest rate you have on the mortgage? Like 2.5%. And then I asked her, I said, why are you selling it? I said, don't sell this house. Why would you sell it? I said, this is an asset that's going to keep giving you income You're going to generate revenue from it. Don't sell it. Just buy another one. And then
Light bulb went off.
I was so open and honest with her. She was like, look, this is what I want to do. I want to start a nursing home. And now I'm looking at a property for 4,000 square foot with 5 or 6 bedrooms sitting on a couple acres, which is going to probably be in Montgomery County, $1.5 million or more. And we're going to start actively looking for those. So me being honest and sitting down and finding out what her true purpose was and what she was really looking for and conveying that to her, I have a client for life, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I told her the truth.
And she'll refer people to you because, you know, you're going to be referred because they want their friends to succeed, their friends and family and coworkers, and they know that with you, you know, guiding them through the real estate transaction and what makes sense and asking the right questions. I think that's what you're really good at. As a matter of fact, what prompted me to bring you on is because your follow-up game is like chef's kiss, as they say. We often go to the office on Wednesdays because they give us lunch, delicious lunch,
free
and free. And so oftentimes we're all sitting in little cubicles talking and hearing each other talk. And there are times when I will just stop what I'm doing. Now, mind you, I've sold over 1,148 homes. But when Russell starts talking to people, and usually he's doing follow-ups, proactive follow-ups, which I am not particularly good at. It's my least favorite thing to do in real estate.
Mine too.
But Russell finds time to do it, and then he sits down, and he basically gives them their undivided attention, and he just starts by figuring out how he can be of service. Tell me, is there a process? Is there a formula that you use to help you get to the root of the problem and to get them engaged so that you can help them with their real estate needs?
That's a very good question. I think the first thing that I do when I meet someone who's interested in real estate, I don't talk about real estate. I talk about how's your day? What are you going through? I try to find common denominators between the both of us.
Yeah, sometimes I think you're just talking to a friend, actually, until I'm like, oh, he's talking
like
to...
And a lot of these people I've met maybe once and maybe had coffee with or shown a few houses or maybe listed their property in the past. But I break through those walls, those barriers, because when you establish trust, when you have an opportunity to talk to somebody, and not so much about business or about selling, just talking to them about life. You know, what'd you do this weekend? Hey, are you a Washington Commanders fan? Hey, how about that draft? You know, if you talk about things outside of what you're there to talk about, and then circle back around, the conversations are so much better.
Yeah.
They're so much smoother, and people will share a lot more with you. So when I meet somebody about a real estate transaction, the first 5 minutes, we're not talking about real estate.
Oh my goodness.
I'll give you an example. So let's say you do a lot of listings.
I do.
When I go to a listing appointment and I'm walking and they're showing me walking through their house, I'm looking at the house. I'm looking what needs to be updated. But I'm looking at their degrees on the wall. I'm looking at the books that they read in their library. So when I sit down and talk with them, I got a good snapshot of who
they are. Yep.
You know, I ask questions that I want to hear them elaborate on because I saw that this person has books on photosynthesis and they love trees. I want to hear about that, right?
Yeah.
I want them to talk about that. So I just try to find a common bond between me and my customers because then they turn into clients as soon as I've earned their trust.
So earning the trust doesn't start with just kind of showing off your business, your real estate acumen and what you know about real estate. It really is showing them that you have an interest in them as a person. And by the way, friend, you know, I happen to sell real estate. Let's talk about what your real estate needs are. So that's the formula. Gain their trust, let them know that you are not just there to complete a transaction, but there to kind of understand who they are as a person and what they might need as far as real estate goes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's why, I mean, there are times I'm like, is he just talking to a friend? And then I realize, and then I'm riveted at that point because I'm like, oh yeah, they did just go to Africa. And, you know, what else can you find out, Russell? But he always gets to the meat and potatoes of the conversation.
Absolutely. It's really funny because it's not only you, but it's like 60% of the people in the office, as soon as they get out the phone, it's like, I can't believe you just said that to that person. It's like you're calling, everyone's making these calls. They're calling customers. They're just starting out with, hey, you want to sell a house? Hey, what about this? No, hey, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
What'd you think about that game this weekend?
Yeah.
What you got planned for Easter weekend? Just if you break through that and people start responding to that, you've broken down that wall of, okay, I don't really know you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can get to the business at hand as, hey, look, I saw this house that I know we were looking at a couple months ago. You look at this neighborhood. This one just popped on the market. What are you doing Saturday? Let's go take a look at it together.
I love that. Yeah.
I want an opportunity when I'm calling customers and or past clients. I just want to take them out and spend 20 minutes with them. Because if I can spend 20 minutes with them, I know that I can figure out whether they're looking to buy, looking to sell, or maybe you're not right now, but maybe a year now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, they'll call me back. So it's kind of like those seeds that we plant.
Yes.
Right? You may not get an instantaneous return on them, but you will in the future because they'll call you back.
Yeah, I love that. So because that's usually what it is. Usually at the end of the conversation, you have either scheduled a consult or they've committed to filling out the prep sheet so that they can get started selling their house, or you identify information that helps you in subsequent phone calls engage again and discuss what they told you on that particular
Absolutely.
phone call.
100%.
So it's and I think that's what makes you so successful. You really are you're an introverted extrovert because
I've heard that before.
Yeah, because you're not necessarily, always the life of the party. That's not who you are as a person. You're pretty private, but when you turn it on and when you focus on someone's needs and you want to help them, it's very evident to that person that you really are a true, genuine, caring person. And I think that is why you are so good at having hard conversations, which is the next topic I want to discuss with you.
That's a very important topic to talk about.
Because I, a couple of times a year, I call you and I say, Russell, I got a situation. I need help because I've not had this conversation with someone, or it's going to be really difficult. And you walk me through it. And we'll talk about that first. And there are times when you tell me your energy is better spent with another client, because there are times when you I give you all of the facts as I understand them, and you say maybe it's not a good fit, and you taught me that too, which is sometimes not all clients
100%
need to continue to be clients. You are a professional, and you deserve a certain level of respect.
100%.
And we understand it's a stressful situation, but no one should ever mistreat you or make you feel like you are the problem. Because if you're doing your job, you are not the problem. You are here to provide a solution, and they just need to understand and respect that. But first, let's go to the hard conversation. Let's talk about
hard conversations.
First.
I'm ready.
So, is there a formula for that? Like, is there a time of day you should do it? Is there a way you should preface the conversation? How do you determine if it needs to be a soft touch or a serious heart-to-heart come to Jesus moment? Like, what do you think about before you pick up the phone and start the conversation?
The first thing is I have a plan depending on the severity of the situation. Mm-hmm. If I know the number one thing that you cannot do is you cannot delay it. Okay. You cannot be dovish. Mm-hmm. You need to identify there's an issue, and you need to convey the issue to your clients and or customers to let them know, hey, this is an issue. Let's try to find a solution. Now, we have to keep in mind that when people are buying and selling houses, it's the most expensive investment that most people make in life.
Most people, yeah.
And I can understand that people can get nervous, specifically when negotiating price, contingencies, things of that nature. But there has to be mutual respect. Sometimes some clients, the way that they deal with stress is by lashing out, being short, hollering, screaming, cursing. I don't really deal with that. I don't feel that's not the way that I do. No. And the reason is yes, we like making money and we like helping people, but if I have a bad client that is making me feel uneasy, it affects the relationships with my family. It affects my sleep at night, because I'm not going to sleep if I'm dealing with it. And more importantly, it affects my clients and customers that I'm working with.
Yeah.
So I got to nip that in the bud, whatever it is. I tend to sit down with the client and say, hey, look, this is what we got. This is the problem. This is the solution. Are we on the same page? If not, we can go our separate ways.
Yeah.
Because I can't deal with this and I can't help you. I can't fulfill my fiduciary responsibility to help you in your real estate transaction if we're having said issue. Mm-hmm. And then usually 9 times out of 10, that works.
Yeah. Because I don't think most people, they're just frustrated. It's not something you should take personally. And sometimes if you bring it to their attention that, you know, I'm here to help you, you know, but I do require that you respect me.
Respect my time.
And respect my time.
Me. Yeah, don't. Yeah. I have clients that will text me at 11, 12 o'clock at night. I don't call them and scream at them. Mm-hmm. The next morning when I'm up, because I get up early.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I'm 5 o'clock in the morning. Hey, everything okay? I'll send them a text. Well, why are you texting me, Shirley? Because you text me at 11 o'clock at night. There's no reason to text. So number one, if you get those late texts, don't respond to them that late at night. Because if you do, then you're welcoming someone infringing on your own personal space and time. You have to set the boundary. And when I meet a client, I don't come out and tell people what you can't do. Don't call me up at 10 o'clock and I know, because that's kind of commonplace. Yeah. You know, after 8 o'clock at night, you're not supposed to be texting or calling me unless something's on fire.
Yep.
So, but you still want to be an advocate for your clients. You want to let them know how professional you are. You want to let them know that I've seen just about everything. Nothing's going to pull the wool over my eyes. I know the contract like the back of my hand. I know how to market your property. I know how to take a look at data, interpret data, so make sure we're priced accurately, things of that nature. You still want to advocate for them, but the second a client or customer steps outside of what they should be doing, you have to have that tough conversation. And you can't be afraid of, if this client is just not adhering to what needs to be done and they want to continue their activity or their behavior, you have to be able to sever those ties because it's going to affect you. I don't want it affecting my other 5 clients that I have under contract that are perfect to work with.
Yeah.
Because that one person will affect you.
Yeah.
Move on with your life. Your life, as soon as you X that communication or X that client and get rid of them, it feels like there's 300 pounds lifted from your shoulders.
Absolutely. Because you're bringing on the stress that the stress that they're feeling, you're absorbing some of it.
And you can't, because a lot of times it's unnecessary stress. They're stressing about things that don't even matter.
Yeah.
You know, I judge a life by the amount of stress that I can remove from it. Right? So we're already in a business that's very, very stressful.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I can remove unnecessary stress, I can be a better husband. I can be a better father. I can be a better real estate agent.
Yeah.
You know, I can be an advocate for my clients. If I'm weighted down with unnecessary things, I can't do it. Yeah. So, you know, I want to help as many people as possible. And for me to do that, I need to hyper focus on the people that I can help.
I love that. No, that's super important. I gotta break a few things down. Firstly, you said something really important earlier. Do not wait to have hard conversations.
No,
whether it's an interpersonal situation or just a problem with the transaction. Have that conversation as soon as possible. And what I heard you say, the formula is explain the problem, provide a solution, and then finalize what the next steps are going to be based on your recommendations.
100%.
So have it early. Just don't sugarcoat it. Put it out there. Before you call, have a solution.
Do not call. If you got a problem, have multiple solutions.
Yeah.
Educate your client so they can make an intelligent decision, because the answer has to come from them.
Yeah.
But, you know, I never call with a problem and say, oh, what are we going to do? No, I call with a problem like, we got A, B, C, and D. Which one do you want to do?
That part. Yep, I love it. I love it. And then follow-up probably is the other thing that needs to happen once the problem has been identified. So that's the formula for dealing and having those tough conversations related to the transaction. And then the other thing we talked about is just being okay with having to sever ties with difficult clients. It's okay. You deserve respect. You are here to help. And according to you, usually when you have those conversations, you guys can proceed with no problems.
No problem. Most 9 times out of 10.
Yep.
Every once in a while you get the client that you can't proceed with.
Yeah.
And you got to nip it and you got to move on.
I love that. Well, it's funny because usually, and this does happen, and the one thing I like to be honest with everyone, and I love it when I'm able to share my mistakes or things that have happened to me in real estate that you can learn from. Whenever there is a difficult client for me and it doesn't feel like it's going to work out, I usually call Russell and explain the situation and say, Russell, what do you think? Can you take them on? Because even in that state, I feel like they still need help. And maybe I'm not the right person because I cannot, our ability to communicate proactively, productively is somehow hampered. And then sometimes just another person, a taller person, I don't know, I'm short and I've got hair, you're tall and you're bald. And maybe they just, there's something about you that commands their attention and their willingness to say, okay, whatever you say, we're going to do. But whatever that is, there have been a few times since I've been with Redfin where I've had to pass people off to you and just knowing that they're going to be taken care of. And usually when I check in with you later on, it's like, they're fine.
Well, I think we all, there are clients that I've had to pass on to people before because not everyone 100% is going to communicate and work well with everyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that goes back to where I talked about, I've tried to figure out who my customers are when I first meet them. I don't talk about real estate. I'm not only trying to win them over, I'm trying to see, is this somebody I can work with? Because there's some field marks, as I'll call them. If they answer a few questions not the way I want them to answer, I may not be working with them. Yeah. But I think it has to do with just, figuring out who they are, figuring out are they able to respect you, and can you help them? Yep. I think that's an important thing. I try not to stereotype people, but you're going to find that there's some people you just can't work with. Yeah. Your personality just don't work. Identify it, find somebody else that can help them, but more importantly, remove that relationship. Stop it. Yeah. Because it's gonna directly hurt the relationships you currently have with your clients. Yeah. It's going to stop you from, you're thinking, you're having dinner with your family. You're thinking about this one client who just won't listen to anything you say. And it kind of eats into everything that you're doing. Pervasive. It just kind of, and the reason is because highly successful agents that I've met take everything personally. When you take on trying to sell a house for somebody, help to find some house, you dig in and you don't stop until you do it. And it seems like you're trying to help them, but they're really not trying to help them. So it's not a workable relationship. Yep. That's interesting. You're trying to help them, but they're not really trying to help them. They're trying to argue or they're trying to talk about things. I'll give you an example. There's one client I was helping them sell their house. I got them $100,000 over list. Their problem was people were coming in showing their $1 million house and they were leaving the lights on. I was like, you're selling your house. You're worried about lights. Can you tell? Yes, we can surely ask them to turn the lights off, but you're going to be home a couple hours afterward. Well, let's get your house sold. Yeah. Let's do that. Oh my goodness, I'm not the only one. A client who has 2 contracts now, and yesterday she sent me this very long text message saying exactly that. I'm like, okay, they did say they're going to write an offer, so I'll beat him up if he doesn't write the offer, but he might give us a really good one, so can I just, and she started laughing, she wrote back, ha ha, and I think she realized, okay, I get it, And I think that's the stress that they're going, it's a very intimate thing to have somebody walking through your house when you're not there, and that's the way that they're kind of dealing with the stress of it, and I understand that, I understand that, but the thing is that the way that you address it, the way that you respond, you put a little bit of humor into it. And they're like that. After she saw that text from me, she's like, "Yeah, I am being weird, aren't I?
Yeah.
I got 2 offers, and let's go through this. Let's get them as many offers as possible. Get the best buyer with the highest financial wherewithal to continue the transaction, and then I cut my lights off
All you want.
because all I need is about 7 days. Give me 7 days. Some of my clients who really have issues with somebody coming in their house, I tell them go out of town for a weekend.
Yeah.
Leave on Wednesday, come back on Sunday after the open house. We'll set a deadline from offers Monday, and hopefully, if we get the right if you price it accurately, we'll get the right buyer, so you don't have to deal with this anymore. Because it is. I've sold several houses. I'm a real estate agent. I've never let anybody walk into my house when I'm living there. I'll move out first and let them do it, just because I know how intimate it is, right? But some people, it's the way that people deal with stress.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because now that I'm talking to you about this, I have a template for everything. You know, I'm the template girl. And I'm realizing now I probably should update my template that I send out when the first tour and showing is confirmed. And I say that sometimes they're late, and they may not even show up, so apologizing in advance for that. But I think what I'm going to add is also sometimes they will leave your lights on. And God forbid, occasionally they may leave a door unlocked. I still want you to let me know, but just know that these things sometimes happen. So I think when you tell people what to anticipate and expect, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be upset when it happens, but it will not be a 20-minute discussion.
What I do is the day before they go live, I usually have a data call. Where I go over online click activity, how many scheduled showings, how many agents are calling me about the house. So make sure we're priced accurately the day before we go live. And that's when I have that conversation. Okay, hey, you're only going to get feedback on 20% of your showings. I'm going to call these people. I'm going to beg for feedback. You're not going to get it.
Yep.
And hey, look, they're going to leave the lights on. Hey, look, 30% of these people aren't even going to show up. So let's get that out there right now, but let's continue to put our best foot forward to market the property.
Yeah.
To find somebody with the financial wherewithal to continue the transaction.
How do you keep this data in your head? Because I repeat a lot of things that you say, and the one thing I will also let our audience know is that you don't spend a lot of time in listings, and your presentation is top notch, and you go over data. You know your data like very, very well.
Well, one of the things I do is I send everything to them in the very beginning, a couple days before I get there. So that I can gauge my clients who will call me immediately like, oh, I'd like this. Go through some of this with me right now. Tell me about why did you have this comp? Tell me about this. I know they're engaged. So by the time I get there, I don't have to talk about the data. I'm not talking about
mind blown.
I'm just sitting there. I'm talking about your house. I'm talking about we're sitting outside. You're talking about your kids. I see your kids are playing soccer or where they play, or they play football. I'm establishing a common denominator because any real estate agent can go in and talk about data, what you should list your house for. I'm trying to find out what we have in common. And that's an important component because people want to do business with people, and regardless of what you look like or anything, they want to find some commonality. That's just the human part of all of it. Because
the numbers are the numbers, and they're, good agents are going to have very similar numbers. There should not be a huge variation, if an agent knows what they're doing in terms of the market analysis. But the human component of it, that's a harder thing to kind of nail down. And you want to reserve the time you're in there with them
100%.
for the trust building and the engagement, so that when you have to tell them, well, it looks like we're overpriced, or the market has shifted, or, they came back with $100,000 worth of repairs that they want you to make. These are conversations that's easier to have because they trust you already. They like you as a person, and they know you're looking out for their best interests. And I think that's why you've been so successful, is that people genuinely know that you care about them and that you're looking out for their best interests. And I think that helps you solve problems faster, because if you spend so much time having to go through all of that and building trust, and then because sometimes they'll tell you that.
Yeah, 100%. Just like you said, good agents, they know the data, they know how to sell houses, they know how to stage. Great agents know how to establish rapport.
Yeah.
Not only just with your clients and customers, with agents. One of the things that I do with a lot of the agents, specifically from a buy side standpoint, where I'm submitting an offer, and there are other offers that I'm competing against, I don't have the ability to talk to the seller. I can only talk to that real estate agent. That's my focus. When I talk to them, I tell them, you know why I want to go under contract with you on this one? Because you and I are better served working on the next deal. Go under contract with me right now. This deal's done. We're going to close this one, so you can focus on the next deal. I tell agents
where's my pen and paper? I need to write this down.
I tell agents who close deals like this guy just said, he's going to put this one behind me so I can work on the next one. I want to close with this guy. A lot of times those agents, even if my offer isn't as good as the other offers, they'll call me back and say, Russell, look, if you hit this number and you remove this contingency, we'll go under contract. Because they like what I said to them. I'm not going to call them and harass them 100 times about the offer. I know when I call them after I submit the offer, I only got one chance to do it. I have my lender follow up to let them know that these people can do it. These people will get great scores, great credit, whatever, that they can close the transaction. But I think, and again, that's rapport. That agent doesn't know me. I bet you after I told that agent that, I bet you that agent pulls up and asks him, how many deals has he closed, right?
Is he all talk or
is he all talk? Is he really? And then when they see the numbers, they're like, oh, okay, that's a good offer. I know they remember that name. But again, it's rapport. You know, a lot of times when I go under contract from the buy side standpoint, I'm talking to the listing agent. We're talking about soccer, their kids, and the same thing. I'm not just talking about deal. Now, some agents don't want to hear it. They're too busy, right? But if you can establish rapport with anyone, I think it goes far beyond just buying, selling, winning, losing. Because in this business, that real estate agent, I may lose on that transaction. I'm going to see them again. They're going to write an offer on my listing. I'm going to write another offer on their listing. There's a high likelihood I'm going to close a deal with them because it's a very small community.
It is.
And it's establishing rapport and treating people with respect. You know, agents have conflicts contractually or whatever. And I see agents, the way that they deal with it, some agents holler and scream and are unprofessional. And the good agents that plan on being in this business 10 years plus, they're planning on closing as many deals, 1,000, 1,200, 2,000. They know that I'm going to have to put my best hat on. I'm going to have to put my best foot forward, and I'm going to treat people with respect, regardless of whether I know I'm 100% right or not.
Yeah, it's not about
I'm going to close a deal with this Indian. I'm going to see them at an event. I'm going to have some sort of interaction with them. Maybe whenever I treat everybody with respect and dignity, it comes back full circle. 100% of the time.
Because we have to think of people as there's not just one client. There's internal clients, your coworkers. There's the external, listing or buyer agent client, and then there's a title company and the inspectors. There are appraisers who know me by name.
They know us. They do. They see our names all the time.
And we'll see the texts that we've had, throughout the years. And so it is a small community, and I think that there's a way to do business where they know that you're a good negotiator. They know you're going to advocate for your client. I like working with other people who clearly are advocating for their client, not just trying to win. I feel like some people look at this business as though it's a battle between one side and the other. And I tell young agents all the time, no, everyone needs to be at that settlement table with a smile on their face. They may not have gotten 100% what they wanted, but everyone is happy with the end result. And that's ultimately what our job is. Advocate for our client. And advocating for our client means they want to go to settlement. So you don't want to tank a deal because your adversarial nature, puts you in combat with the other agent.
Yeah, that's not what it's about.
No.
It's about finding common ground. And the thing is that, I don't think I've represented any buyer or seller that got 100% of what they wanted. It's mutual agreement in writing. That's what a contract
Meeting
is.
of the minds. Yep.
100%.
Oh my gosh, we have to recap, and I don't know, I can do this. It's going to take a whole nother show just to recap, but I'm going to try. Thank you, Russell, firstly.
Thanks for having me.
And let me make sure and you guys can call me or call Russell, because he will pick up his phone, and he will, if there's any particular gem that you found interesting and want to expound upon, I will invite him back. I am trying to convince him to have his own podcast, because he's got so much great information, great practices and tips that all of us can learn from. But here's what we gathered from today's conversation. Follow up as soon as possible. Have a game plan before that call occurs. State very clearly and without any sugarcoating what the issue is. Provide several solutions, possible solutions if you can, and then agree upon one and follow up afterwards. If you're working with a difficult client, it's okay to fire a client. Not all good money, as my grandmother would say, not all good business is good money.
That's 100% correct.
And so, you are a professional. You should be respected. You should give respect. And if there isn't mutual respect, then maybe it's not a client that needs to continue to be a client. And then also, we talked about the fact that we have to show respect and get along well with others, including people in our office, contractors, inspectors, appraisers, the other agent that we're working with. Because what you want to do and how you build longevity in this business is you want to be well respected, and you don't have to go out for beers, not that level of liking, but you definitely have to be someone people want to work with. And I am definitely going to be using that little gem. You know what? This deal is done. If my client is ratified, we're going to start working on the next deal. I love that because it does show that you are working from a position of collaboration, and what you're trying to do is get everyone to the settlement table with the smiles on their face, right?
You summed that up 100% perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys, that's the end of this episode. Thank you for joining. Join us again because I'm really here to help you learn, execute, thrive, and succeed in this real estate business so that you can have a rewarding, joyful career. One home, one client, one dream at a time.